Okay, everybody, welcome to the flipped class. Today we're going to talk about percents. And we've discussed percents a little bit in the past, but over the next several days we're going to work with percents. And so this presentation will have different parts to it that you may want to go back and review. Okay, we're going to start with just what is a percent. Okay, I've got a 10 by 10 square grid here. So of course there's 100. A percent is the ratio of a number to 100. So you can remember that percent means per 100. For example, if I filled in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 boxes, I filled in 8 out of 100 of the boxes in the grid, okay, or the squares I should say, all right? That would be 8%. Okay, 8 per 100. Okay, we can write percents as fractions. And of course, you've seen percents, primarily on your papers, okay? You get an 89% back, you got a B+. You get a 95% back, you got an A, okay? We can write percents as fractions and go back and forth. And in fact, that's how we grade papers. I'll get to that a little bit later. 40%. Well, I know that that's 40 per 100. So that's 40 out of 100, okay? Looking at this, I know I could divide those both by 20, okay? I can think of 4 and 10 can both be divided by 2, and then there's zeros left over, okay? So I can divide those by 20, and 40 divided by 20 gives me 2. 100 divided by 20 gives me 5. So I end up with 2/5 as my fraction. It's the same as 40 hundredths. It's the same as 40, oops, let me fix that, 40%, okay? So think about it this way. If I gave you a pop quiz that had 5 questions on it, and maybe you weren't prepared, obviously I hope you get a better score than this, but you're not prepared and you get 2 correct out of 5. When I grade that, I take 2/5, you got 2/5 correct, I know that's 40 out of 100, you would get a 40%. Obviously, none of you guys are going to get 40%, but you get the idea. Okay, we can also write percents as decimals, okay? So let's say you have 24%. We know that that is 24 per 100, 24 out of 100. Now that I know the fraction, I can just write the fraction as a decimal. So I have 100, looks like a 6, but you get the idea. 100. And then I'm going to put that into 24. And since I already see that 100 does not go into 24, I'm going to add some decimals here, okay? 100 does not go into 2, does not go into 4, 0 times, right? So I'm going to move my decimal up, put it there, okay? 100 does go into 240, 2 times. 2 times 100 is 200. I subtract, I end up with 40, and I know I have to bring down my decimal, or excuse me, bring down my 0. All right, 100 goes into 400 4 times exactly. I subtract that out, end up with 0, nothing left over. So 0.24 is the same thing as 24%. Okay, we can use decimals, fractions, percents. They're all interchangeable, but we can figure out different percentages by using these math skills that we've learned, okay? There's an example in the book. We'll talk about it a little bit more in class, but I want to just get to the math part of it right now. Basically, it talks about 400 frozen yogurt cups were sold. We need to find 45% of 420 frozen yogurt cups because 45% were sold to teenagers, let's say. Okay, so we want to know what that is. Well, we already know, and I'm going to use blue here, we already know that 45% is 45 per 100, 45 out of 100. And we already know that whatever 45% of 420 is going to go here as our numerator, and our denominator is out of 420. Okay? So we've got what looks like some math that we've done previously, right? Of course, let's say C. We'll put C for cups here. So if I'm going to cross multiply, I have 100C, 100 times C, is the same as 45 times 420. And I'm going to erase a little bit just so I have a little bit more room to work. Obviously, you would not erase your work. Okay, so we end up with 100C. 45 times 420. We would do the math. We would get 18,900. We need to divide out the 100 so it cancels out. 18,900 divided by 100. Okay, cancel out our zeros. 189, anything divided by 1 really is itself. So we end up with C equals 189. So 45% of 420 is 189. How do we know if that's accurate? Well, we did the math, so we're pretty sure it's accurate. But if we wanted to do a quick double check, 45% is almost half, right? It's almost 50%. What would be 50% of 420? Well, 42 would give me 21, bring the 0. So half of 420 would be 210. 45% is a little bit less than half. 189 is a little bit less than 210, but it's very close. So we can be pretty sure that we have a good answer because it's very close to our estimate. Okay, let's look at this word problem. This is also in your books on page 381. Heather is downloading a file from the internet. She has downloaded 75% so far. If 30 minutes have passed since she started, how long will it take to download the rest of the file? Okay, well, I know 75% is going to be 75 of 100. Okay, I know that. All right? But what I need to know then is what to put over here. Well, she's already downloaded 30 minutes. That's going to be our numerator because we want to know the total amount of time it's going to download. Not a portion of the time, but the total amount of time. So we'll put M for minutes. Okay? Well, let's do our cross products here. We have 100 times 30, okay, which is going to give us 3,000, is the same as 75 times M. Okay? We're going to divide out the 75 so we can cancel that out. And we're going to end up with M equals 3,000 divided by 75. Now, if we go ahead and do the math, which I'm going to do for us in this case, we get M equals 40. Now, we're not done. 40 minutes is, check it out. If we go back to our original problem, the M is 40 minutes. Okay, but that's how long the entire thing is going to take to download. The entire file is going to take to download. 30 minutes have already passed. So we have 40 minutes total minus the 30 minutes. So yes, the total amount of time is 40 minutes, but we need to take away the 30 minutes that have already passed. So there are 10 minutes remaining. There's 10 minutes left in the file. Okay, I want to touch briefly on one more topic. It's called applying percents. A discount is an amount that is subtracted from the regular price of an item, right? I mean, if you have a discount, you know that means it's on sale. A tip is what you would leave for a server or someone who is maybe someone who cut your hair or someone who served your dinner, okay? And then sales tax is the amount that's added to the price of an item. Now, I'm going to touch more upon each of these in class, so I'm not going to get very in-depth here, but I do want to just give an example, okay? Let's say you went to a restaurant and you bought, let's say some tacos, a little side of rice, maybe some beans, you know, good sized lunch, and it ended up being $13.95, and that's with tax. We'll go ahead and say that's with tax, okay? Now, you thought your service was very good, so you want to add a tip. Typically, 15% is considered the norm for tips. A lot of people tip 20%, and I'm totally cool with that. A lot of times I tip 20% if it's pretty good service, but we're going to use 15% only because it's a little bit more difficult, and I want you to see how we would do it. 20% is a lot easier, and I'll show you that here in a minute as well. So you don't have to leave the exact amount of tip, right? 15%, you don't have to do that exactly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, $13.95, that's about $14. 15% is the same as 10% plus 5%, right? Kind of the distributive model there, 10% and 5%. Well, 10% of $14 is very easy to find. Okay? I know that 10%, you're basically going to have 0.10 times 14. That's going to give me $1.40. Okay? 10%, $1.40. What about 5%, Mr. Quick? Well, isn't 5% just half of 10%? So what's half of $1.40? Okay, be 70 cents, right? 14, 7, 0, 0. So my 15% then becomes 10 plus 5%, which is $1.40 plus 70. So if I go ahead and put that back together, I'm going to leave $2.10 for a tip, and that's a 15% tip. Now, let's change that real quick. Let's say I thought the service was really good, and I wanted to leave a 20% tip because it was good service, okay? And I appreciate that. I'm going to look at that just as 10% plus 10%. Okay, so I end up with $1.40 plus $1.40. Okay, I'm going to leave $2.80 as a 20% tip. Okay, now, just for the heck of it, let's say service was really excellent. They brought over several refills. They were very polite, just had a smile on their face the whole time, and we want to leave a 25% tip. Very generous tip. That's very nice. Okay, you know, it's only $14, but we thought they gave really excellent service, so we want to leave more than just 20% or 15%. I could look at that as 10% plus 10% plus 5%, right? 10, 10, and 5 is 25. If 10% is $1.40, 10% is $1.40, 5% again would be half of that, so 70 cents. So I do $1.40 plus $1.40. I know that's $2.80 plus the 70 cents. I'm going to end up with $3.50, which is a pretty nice sized tip. Okay, that's all I've got for you. I know that's a lot of information. When you come back to this as we go through percents over the next several days, you can watch certain parts of the video. You don't have to watch the whole 12-minute video over and over again. Okay, I just wanted to put this all in one place so we have all of our percent information and we can kind of see how it all ties together. I know it's not, again, real in-depth, but that's not the point of the video. The point is to give you some quick examples and something you can go back and reference. Okay, we'll talk more about percents in class. Can't wait to see it. I'll see you then.